So today is a very special conference and dedicated to T.K.V. Desikachar, who we've been studying. And Desikachar transitioned last night in India, so actually today is the day that he transitioned. And I didn't plan it this way. I didn't really know anything about his health at this time. I have always loved his teaching and his work, and the book we're studying, The Heart of Yoga, is truly one of my favorite books. So I'm honored and grateful that we were studying it during his time of passing and really honoring his life's work. So this conference is dedicated to Desikachar. We have been studying the pranayama, so our life force that rides on our breath. And last week we got into studying the Vayus. So really, not just, the Ashtanga is a breath practitioner, but there's so much more depth than just inhale your arms up and exhale your arms down. And to study the Vayus is to start to really master and understand the full depth of having not just a breath practice, but a pranic practice. So what is a Vayu? You guys are like, I don't know. Of course you know. The translation is a wind, and I like it because it helps us understand that, like the windmills I've been discussing, we've been studying, and the chakras being sort of like wheels that spin with the prana, that we're trying to get movement of prana. So it's not just enough that we're holding the prana in, because we don't want it to get stuck. So now we know the bandhas are the locks, and we're holding the prana in. But the yogi, the pranic practitioner, now has to move the prana throughout the body. And we've been studying with Desikachar's beautiful, very simple picture that not only do we want to move it throughout the body, but we wanted to get it into the very edges of our body. So all the asanas that we do and vinyasas are ways that we hold our anatomy, our physical body, and then the yogi tries to then move this energy through the nadis or the meridians throughout the body. That's like an electrical system. We understand our skeletal structure, our muscular structure. We understand our autonomic nervous system, and old forms of medicine and science like Chinese medicine, Japanese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, we have to understand as well our electrical system, which for us we talk about as nadis. So we understand that we need this breath and this pranic practice to help us move that energy in order to keep us healthy into the very edges of our being. So last week studying the Vayus, we understand that's partially what keeps us physically healthy. Udana Vayu through the throat, prana Vayu through the heart, samana Vayu through your digestion, and apana Vayu, which is the process of elimination that we talked about last week, keeping us healthy. This week I want to focus on prana Vayu and udana Vayu. In particular, say that this teaching today, honestly, is something that has completely transformed my life. And I try to teach this every year from different viewpoints or different teachings in order to kind of incorporate that into all your lives. And always my hope is that this very simple teaching today might have the power of transforming your life as well. And I want this teaching to transform your physical body as it's transformed my physical body, but also your energetic body, and lastly, and maybe most importantly, your spiritual self or your emotional self. So most of you know we talk about all the time, how we have sort of bad posture in our everyday lives. We wake up in the morning, however many hours we stand sitting in chairs or even standing, oftentimes we're a little bit collapsed in this way. What happens when I'm collapsed like this, physiologically?
You can't get as big of an inhale.
Right, I'm not breathing as well because I'm collapsed in this lung, this chest arena, so I'm not oxygenating as well, for sure. It's part of degeneration, which the lungs are not having their full capacity. What else?
It's pressure here.
Yes, so we'll talk a little bit more about that in the coming conferences, but absolutely my head starts to hang and puts added pressure there. What about my pectoral muscles? Shrinking. So then this whole chest area is caved in, and then of course what happens in the back of the body once I start doing this stuff? as the amazing shrinking human, right? As I shrink, it changes my spine and actually creates rounding here. And also, as my teacher Tim Miller would say, some density back here as well. So for us in our yoga practice, we're doing lots of things to try to open the front of our bodies, like all these beautiful up dogs, extending the pectoral muscles, lengthening the spine from the front, opening the chest, and as you guys have said, then you add this beautiful breath practice to it, and we're oxygenating the body and opening up, creating space and room for that to move around. It's beautiful. And then when we add Udana Vayu to it, then also when you think about throughout the day when we're on our devices, we're in our cars, we're eating our food or whatever, reading our newspapers. Does anyone read a newspaper anymore? We read our newspapers on our phones. What's happening to the throat? What's going on there? It's closed as well. So when we start doing all this opening up here, we're also elongating the throat and getting more breath and prana through Udana Vayu as well, which is very powerful, because I want to come over here for a second to the third aspect we talked about, which is your emotional self or your spiritual evolution. What's special about the heart chakra? Mayo, remember this from yesterday's teaching. We've got the lower chakras, then we've got the heart chakra, and the higher chakras.
It's like a bridge between the two.
It is a bridge between the two. So we always talk about, I brought Carolyn Mace back a little bit to look at anatomy of the spirit, but our lower chakras are really more of our like survival stuff, right? Just kind of getting along and trying to get it together. We get to the heart chakra. This is the bridge between the spiritual evolution, where we start to move into higher forms of our consciousness, higher forms of being. So the heart chakra is incredibly important for us, and I believe the heart chakra is kind of the yoga chakra, because that's where we're doing all this good work that we don't do throughout the day, where we're expanding and opening ourselves up to that higher evolution for ourselves, which is really what the yoga practice is about. Otherwise, you guys, we're just here like getting stronger and getting more flexible, putting a little weight-bearing stuff on our skeletal structure. All of that is good. You can do all of that in a gym with a personal trainer. Yoga makes this altogether a different practice, a pranic practice. So today I want all of us to focus on prana vayu and udana vayu in our practice, in up dog in particular, right? Hanging out a little bit longer in that full breath, that full inhale to open us up wide into, what is the fourth chakra about and the fifth chakra about? Fourth is about love, forgiveness, compassion, being connected to others, and then the fifth chakra, moving up higher, speaking your truth, stepping into who you are, being expansive, being fully yourself, you know, all the teachings we do around that. That happens when we're living and really moving physiologically and pranically into these higher chakras. So up dog, obviously something that's going to help us with that. And then we get to backbends. And the backbends, you know, I always talk about the Mary Oliver quote I love so much. Remember that one? Are you breathing just a little bit and calling it a life? You know that one? I feel like sometimes I want to say to you guys, are you guys breathing in backbends just a little bit and calling it a backbend? You know, we get to that as one of the most powerful poses for us to open up and to open our body, vulnerable in the chest and in the throat area. And we're there just eeping like last week we talked about, just like these little barely breaths. Or we're struggling breaths or holding our breath. So backbend is really where we should be full on. You know, we talk about a yoga teacher or a practitioner, I might say. I'm looking over in this side of the room, and I know Timea is one of our teachers now, and say, you know, Timea is a senior teacher. She's been teaching for a number of years, you know. I could say Timea is a senior practitioner. She's been practicing Ashtanga for a number of years. But we might be like, it makes me feel old when someone says I'm a senior practitioner. But it's one thing. But I could also say that Timea is a master practitioner, right? She's a master practitioner because she's in advanced series, right? I can say that. And you would all understand in this lineage, whether I was talking about martial arts or Timea, that she's a master, right? But really what it comes down to is being a master practitioner, which you're all doing a very advanced class today, you're master practitioners, means that you're master pranic practitioners, because otherwise we're just gymnasts today. But if you can come in here and breathe fully and move that prana throughout your body when you're doing advanced asanas, you are a master practitioner. One does not come without the other. So for me as your teacher, what I want to ask of all of you today, which has completely changed my life, is to not only do up dog, but to fully breathe and move prana into up dog. To not only do a nice back bend today, but to fully move deep with breath and pranic movement into your back bend. So one of the major things that shifted for me is that I used to kind of live my life this way. And we'd say, oh, okay, I had bad posture. It's true, bad posture. But also I was constantly trying to shrink a little bit and make sure nobody thought I was too big, that nobody felt too uncomfortable around me, right? And now more and more with my yoga and my breathing, I'm like, hello. I am very big, you know? And I'm big in my yoga practice, but of course we know how that translates in life. So I want to show you something that I was very guilty of for many years of my practice, and I see this and it drives me a little bit nutty burger, right? Is when I see practitioners in their forward bends like this. And all their forward bends like this. In all their heart opening poses like this. Why don't I like that very much? Prana Vayu, Udana Vayu is what we're studying today. So this is completely closed. What would be open? Here, right? So if I say this is a great forward fold because I've got my head to my legs, but if I can't get a full breath in, if my prana is not moving, I like to refer to this as the dead zone. So in life, when we're doing all this stuff, this area becomes dead. When we start to elongate the spine and fully breathe into the chest arena and the throat, it becomes alive. We become more passionate, more creative, more filled with vitality, right? And it's basic breathing, it's basic structure. So in the forward bends, what I noticed is all these years of doing this collapsing like I do standing, but in my asana practice, made it very difficult to do back bends. Does it make sense? If I'm like this all the time, how do I expect that by the time I get here, I'm just magically going to be open, right? We have to be opening this front of the body, this arena, rather than like in life closing it down. So in order to do that, I've been suggesting to some of you is that whatever you consider your forward bend, that maybe you pull out of that slightly. For me, if I would say maybe if I pull out of it to 75%, I'm here. I've taken dead zone into this alive zone, and I've really made this area of my body have more capacity for just oxygen. And then because you're all pranic practitioners, I've just given this arena an opening to move as the Vayus more prana through this area as well as the throat. So I'd like you guys to focus on today is in all of your, any forward bending we're doing, is try to find where you can bring your personal dead zone in your spinal area, that middle or upper thoracic, into more extension and more breathing. If you can do that, then by the time you make your way to back bends, hopefully you're going to have more energy that you've been utilizing for the last hour and a half or so. But also you're going to have that ability then once you get there, because these pectoral muscles are going to start to stretch, right? And you're going to start to open your shoulders up a little bit more, and this area in your back won't be as dense for you to actually be able to physiologically open up your back bend more, energetically open up your back bend more, and do more of that higher chakra work that we're always doing in our yoga practice. So let me finish with our quote and say this. This is one of my favorite quotes ever. Aeneas Nin said this. And the day came when the risk to remain tight in the bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. Open your body, your heart, extend your energy through your heart and your throat, love, expand, and take risks. Namaste.